Hello again, and welcome to my place. So, what's wrong with racism anyway? Forgive my shock jock approach, but in light of recent events, I think we really need to revisit this question. If racism is so patently, unambiguously wrong, such that we are genuinely shocked by such an obviously absurd question, then why is there so much of it about? As I heard recently, how is it that some of the world's worst conflicts in history can be attributed to or decided upon by something as benign as the level of melanin in your skin? Who is that stupid? What are we missing here? Part of the answer, at least, is sheer intellectual laziness. It's easy to stereotype. What makes overgeneralized behavior so attractive? How is it justified? Again, because it's so easy. If you feel justified in targeting someone, what easier identifier than skin color? There's no mistaking it and no denying it, unless, of course, you have the resources of Michael Jackson. It's exponentially more difficult to appraise a group's shared values and beliefs. Generally, these are not carried around on our skin. A group or an individual's convictions, attitudes, values, motives, and beliefs are veiled from us in the thought life. While individuals may wear their heart on their sleeve, a person or group's motivating ideology is far less accessible and takes a concerted effort to understand. Racism gets oxygen by refusing to make the effort to differentiate between a person's race and their beliefs, because their beliefs often transpose neatly over the boundaries of race or ethnicity and culture. It flourishes because a person's visible race is much easier to distinguish than someone who has beliefs different from our own and which are invisible to us. And these we cannot know unless we take the trouble of respectfully engaging with them. The great enemy of truth, as John F. Kennedy wrote, is when we enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought. Another aspect in the anatomy of racism is the correlation issue, which I'm told is one of the most common and most useful statistics. It is a predominant issue in racist methodology. Correlation can show whether and how strongly pairs of variables are related. For example, there's a strong positive correlation between a vehicle's speed and the severity of injuries in the event of an accident, which leads to conclusions of, at the very least, a contributing cause. I don't think you can argue this. When the speed goes up, so do the extent and severity of the injuries. Racism capitalizes on this correlation argument. Correlation equals causation. Thus, to the Christchurch terrorist, the word Muslim positively correlated strongly to terrorism, large families, and eventual white decline, which in this callous, distorted reality is a threat justifying multiple murders. Racial prejudice gets traction from faith in the idea that correlation equals causation. But skin color doesn't determine one's values, beliefs, one's worldview. The real issue is the driving ideology. It's a deadly conflation of the issues. To make absolute the often correct precept that correlation equals causation is to commit the logical fallacy of post hoc ergo propter hoc. The rooster crows immediately before sunrise, therefore the rooster causes the sun to rise. The exception establishes the rule. The exception, now well publicized, is that correlation is not equal to causation, nor is it necessarily a source of causation. However, racism couldn't gain traction without the sense of correlation. Some justified, some not. Please hear me when I use the word justified here. I'm not justifying racism, but I am saying that there are parallels between skin color and general attitudes and beliefs. There are reasons why these things do have an association, not because of a person's skin, but because of shared circumstances, shared cultures, shared beliefs and worldviews. People of shared ancestry suffer or thrive under similar conditions, eliciting certain similar responses, which adds fuel to the correlation argument because we become a distinct people under common stimuli. These things add up to our cultural identity and give impetus to this correlation. The strongest contributing factor is the shared adopted narrative, the worldview of groups of people that allows them and ourselves to make sense of the world. Racism, as with any ism, is also exacerbated by how differences are treated. Extremism feeds on the perception, real or not, of being ignored, deplatformed, and marginalized, which contributes to a growing sense of powerlessness and consequently susceptibility to radicalization. When the powers that be, government, media, and other powers that lead culture, control the narrative such that dialogue with disparate groups is made impossible or even just ineffective, there will always be individuals willing to use violence to make a statement. When Noam Chomsky observed, "The smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum." In this we experience a controlling narrative, where peaceful change and open dialogue is disallowed by legitimizing only the status quo and thereby encouraging extremist violence to break out. If you want to know who has control, ask who it is that you can't criticize, is another indicator of whether or not freedom of speech is alive and well. The perceptive John F. Kennedy wrote, "When you make peaceful revolution impossible, you make violent resistance inevitable." Thus, the danger of criminalizing all opposition to Israel, labeling it as anti-Semitism, all criticism of Islam as Islamophobia, demonizing all talk of white supremacy, declaring the topic off limits, will feed to suspicion, mistrust, and divide people, and gives rise to those who advocate violence to bring issues to a head. To shut down respectful dialogue, to demonize any critique of a religion or worldview or political movement, to refuse to dialogue on the success or failure of such things as multiculturalism, is to court the danger of extremism. Of course, this doesn't justify it, but it does show the value of providing venues and platforms for airing the respective good or evil of various systems of thought, in order that they may be seen for what they are. When we cannot risk offence, neither can we be honest. To meet racism with more racism is merely to propagate and deepen the divide. Please, people, thank you for listening, for watching. Appreciate your feedback, your comments. Thanks again. Goodbye.